damn them.
Blues, it happens every night.
Every old night.
And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine.
Nope.
The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble.
Or a cold front with single-digit temperatures. And riverboat dealers. I have problems with all of them.
This highway does not know my name, and I don't care. No,
Nope.
I don't care.
Shout out.
Heading my way for another place, and I got 3 good tires and a spare. Just a white line gypsy getting out of Mississippi with just enough gas to get there.
Low budget live, the not so live variety from the Low Budget Live Bar and Grill here in beautiful southern Middle Tennessee. And it's starting to get more beautiful because we're getting out of the polar vortex. I mentioned this last week on the Low Budget Light, Thursday's Low Budget Light that I did, that it was freezing out here. And if you hear something in the background that sounds like a jet fan or jet engine, excuse me, it's a space heater because the single-digit temperatures this week have turned the bar and grill into the bar and walk-in cooler. It's horrible out here right now. I'm not going to lie, but this is the podcast for Monday, January 27th, you bunch of low-lifers, and I hope you're all doing well out there. Thanks so much for the love on the 300th episode with Ben Millikins, the hardened criminal himself. And thanks so much, man. A lot of y'all checked out the Low Budget Light I did with Gary Brown. If you haven't done that, go check that out from last Thursday. Gary finished second in a 2003 BFL All-American to Tony Christian, the cheating son of a gun, who was running a pretty good scam against FLW. Gary should have won that event. When all the details came out months later, when Tony Christian got caught cheating on the FLW tour, like nothing was ever happened. Tony wasn't, awarded the money. And there were so many victims of that situation with Tony Christian from so many different tournaments that he won. I so many second place finishers, like probably want to choke the guy. I also, interestingly enough, on the Tony Christian thing, I did get a DM from a gentleman that says Tony Christian bass fishes still in tournaments on electric only lakes in Georgia, and somebody lets that happen. And he actually sent me a screen grab of the results from an event that Tony Christian won. So, wow. If you are someone if you're running a tournament that fishes out of a damn dumpster for 3 fish in it, and you let Tony Christian, who was banned for life, the only person to ever be banned for life from FLW Fisher events, you are a jackass. All right. That being said, holy cow. But yeah, I forget who that was that sent that to me, but so many of y'all reaching out right now, really cool stories. I'm going to do my best to keep the lights going. I don't know where they're headed. I've got a lot of ideas for that. I'm also running around the country a lot right now, so it's going to come down to timing and can I actually get them knocked out. But man, those have been really fun for me. It's challenging trying to keep it, 30 minutes or less. That's what I'm kind of putting that limit on myself there, and because these tend to go long form, and that's what I enjoy. So those have been a lot of fun. So thanks for checking those out. Means a lot to me right there. But Gary Brown, congrats to the 2003 real BFL All-American champ, Gary Brown. And thanks to Gary for joining me on the show. He never told that story in over 20 years. So I feel honored that he chose Low Budget Live to do that. So, and he's also from the Biloxi area, Biloxi Blue. Like, it was really weird. The whole thing was kind of crazy how it worked out. All right, fishing is back. Of course, the ABT last weekend was kind of my kickoff, getting to work the Alabama Bass Trail there at Gunnersville. We got a Bassmaster Open going on right now as I'm recording a couple days early, so not sure how that's going to shake out. And I'm recording early because Ryder Man, my youngest, has a birthday coming up, and we're going to go do the thing this weekend, hang out with him and celebrate Ryder Man turning 14. Charlie turned 21 last week as well. So we've got birthdays galore here in January. So I'm recording a couple days early, but the Open's going on. Actually, I'm recording on Friday They actually just started at Clark's Hill because they were delayed because this polar vortex that put snow on the beach, insane, South Louisiana snow, Florida snow, and they got dumped on over there at Clark's Hill. And they had to cancel the first day because pretty much most people wouldn't be able to get to the ramp, it looked like, from the road conditions. But that thing kicked off today. We got a Toyota series at Sam Rayburn, I believe, going on right now. And then BPT is back next week. I think they start practice first of the week. Or so, as you're listening to this, they'll be practicing. So I actually, in all my travels this week, I've been out running the roads, and I ran into my old buddy Keith Carson. I was at Vexus Boats dealing with the fine folks there on some business, and ran into my old buddy Keith Carson picking up his new boat and getting ready to go to the first BPT. And it was interesting talking with Keith just a little bit about this new strategy, because Keith embraced forward-facing sonar. If you remember, he won a pro circuit last year scoping them up on St. Clair and beat a lot of the so-called scopers, and Keith got it done. He kind of spent a ton of time learning that technique, gave into the dark side, as he said on here, and now they can only use it in one period. So I am looking forward to have to declare the period, and then you have to know forward-facing the other two periods. Their format sets up perfectly for it. It's kind of a hybridized deal. I'm looking forward to watching it this week. They're at Lake Conroe down in Houston, Texas. So I think that's going to be a neat event to see how you attack that, and how do you practice? How do you, it's just going to change a lot of things this year. I think a lot of the same guys are obviously going to smash on them because they're fantastic. They called them way before forward-facing sonar. That's what a bunch of you dummies out there that scream and yell about this all the time don't understand, or you don't have Google to see that, a lot of these dudes were stacking it up pretty good before forward-facing sonar ever existed. So should be interesting. But I think it'll be entertaining, to say the very least. All right, I want to thank a couple people, and then we've got an awesome guest today that every time I get to interview this dude, and I think we've done it maybe only one or two times on LBL over the years, 300 whatever episodes, 301 now, call it. He's a hero of mine, man, from when I was young, and just a dude. So can't wait. Old Boy Outfitters. What's up, old boy? Joining the show. I talked about it on the 300th. I got this lid from Old Boy Outfitters right here. They have all sorts of head gear. They got all sorts of shirts, hoodies, lifestyle brand. If you like the outdoors, they're all about it. They're out of East Tennessee. Fantastic folks. And they've got a lot of things coming. They have some new UPF 50 hooded sun shirts, which we all love to wear. They've got those in a lot of really cool patterns, camo and solid colors, different things. But you can check it out, oldboyoutfitters.com, and they're going to give you 15% off of every order if you use code OLDBOY, OLEBOYLUKE, Old Boy Luke, at checkout. Go check it out. Got a lot of cool college game day stuff, but thanks to the folks from Old Boy Outfitters for joining us. Bait-works.com, bait-WRX, bait-WRX.com, bait-works, the exclusive online home of the LOB jig. This little cricket right here, boy. Got the 3-aught Trocar custom. Going to cross their eyes. You can throw a finesse jig on heavy line. That was the idea behind it. Finer than frog hair skirt material, but the LOB jig available exclusively online at Baitworks. And then they've got everything else under the sun. If you don't want it, don't order it, because they're going to run you down and bring it to your front porch really fast. Bait-works.com. Dunkin-10, DUNKIN-10 saves you money. And last but not least, hang the imaginary banner. Express Boats. I got to spend some time with the fine people out there at Express Boats, and had a dear friend of mine with me when we went out there this week on a little bit of a business trip. And y'all ask all the time, what do you like about the boat? What do you like about this? I get a lot of questions. A lot of people say that. I get a lot of questions. I really do about the Express. People are genuinely intrigued by the boat. And I always say it is amazing. I love the boat. What I love more than the boat, the people that build that, they're the most passionate, fantastic humans. And look, the boating industry is full of a lot of those. It's the rule, not the exception, to be honest, at a lot of companies, to be fair. But man, Express makes you feel like a family, whether you're just buying one at a dealership, whether you get to work with them as close as I do, everybody feels like they're a part of the show. It's amazing and always great to see them. Go check out their H17s, their H20s, that Hyperlift hull, man. You will absolutely fall in love with it. And then I'm running the X21 Pro LE. I got another one on the way. Finally got that bad boy ordered. And my 24 is for sale. If you know a fella, give me a shout. Express Boats, building excitement since 1966. All right, we're going to get this fella on the hook. And I say that because I never want him to get me on the hook, because this dude has one of the most amazing hook sets of all time. He's a real man, to say the very least. We're going to get him on the hook, presented by Eagle Claw, the hook company that got everybody addicted on fishing and then keep them pegged up now with them Trocars, laser sharps. Got all sorts of madness going on at Eagle Claw. This dude has won everything. Okay, he's won everything, almost everything, in the sport of professional bass fishing at every single level, in every single organization. And Godzilla ain't got nothing on him. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Hackney. Well, all right, as promised, I said Godzilla ain't got nothing on him. Still, trust me, he don't. Greg Hackney, thank you for joining me, buddy.
Yes, sir, Luke. It's good to see you. Thank you.
It is, man. We were talking before I hit record. It's like being in the same room. It's amazing with this technology stuff. I get to see more of my buddies like this than I do in person anymore, because everybody's here, there, and everywhere, and life gets busy. But also something we were talking about, I just want you to let the folks at home know about the snow in Gonzales, Louisiana, because I've seen it. Look, there's snow on the dang beach. There's been snow everywhere. But how much did y'all get?
So we got somewhere between 10 inches and a foot at our house. I've seen some places got 12 inches, some 11 and a half, but we were somewhere like where it was drifted up at, it was like 2 feet deep. And what's crazy, we had a big snow, maybe it was like in 17, I think, and it snowed 5 inches. And by 1 o'clock that afternoon, it was gone. But this was so cold when it happened that it was like powder snow. Like the only time I've seen snow like this is like when you go out west. We go out west for a winter vacation, and it's been pretty crazy. We made the most of it there for a couple of days. We did some ATV, and I'm gonna post a video later today, me and Sarah, where I hooked a boat to the Polaris, and we burn up the neighborhood.
I was just about to ask, does it bring out your inner redneck and your inner child? Because, buddy, we go hard around here when it happens.
That's the crazy thing. Like, I couldn't stay in the house.
That's me.
So growing up in South Arkansas, we would get a little snow when I was a kid, like most. And I'm like, you just get wet, because then our clothes are so much better now. But then you just get soaking wet, come in, dry off, and go back out. And so it was kind of like that. It was a lot of fun. We built a big fire in the fireplace and cooked some gumbo, and just like it was like 2 days of actually having a winter vacation.
I love it, man. We did the same here. I can remember, though, talking about clothes getting wet, being a kid, and we had a snow one time that we were out of school for probably 10 days. I was in the 8th grade. It was crazy. It's the biggest one we've ever had. And it was just so cold, like you said, wouldn't go away. And we lived next to this. There was one year my folks moved next to this golf course, and it happened to be that year. So our house ended up like a ski lodge for all my redneck buddies. Their mamas and daddies were dropping them off. And my mama, God bless her, was so mad for about 10 days because we were tracking crap in and out. We were putting gloves in the microwave to try to dry them off so we could go right back out. I'll never forget that as long as I live. And we've been at our place we live now for 7 years. We've had 2 pretty good ones that my kids, that golf course is not too far. And I may or may not allegedly have been over there at night. They're not a big fan of it, but I may have snuck my kids out there a couple times to do some sledding like we used to back in the day.
Like,
got to do it, man. Got it. I said a couple weeks ago, there's something about snow that does, like you said, I can't stay inside. It brings out like it's a joy though that is just so strange. And if I lived in Minnesota, I'd probably hate it, obviously. But there's a reason I live in the South.
That's it. But if we could just get a couple days of it every year like that, perfect. Maybe even 3. Maybe 3 days at the max. would be perfect every year. But because people in the South do enjoy. I have seen all kinds of stuff. Like here, I saw pictures of snowmen that look like giant crawfish. You know what? Everybody made the most of those 2 days.
Man, it's how many snows, like, since you've lived down there, do you think you've seen? I mean, you said in 17, I mean, y'all don't. I saw all the way down like Grosse Savon down there outside of Lake Charles. They got hammered. I mean, that's so rare.
Yeah, they actually they issued a blizzard warning in Southwest Louisiana. We got the wind. We actually probably ended up getting more snow than they did, but they were getting like 25-mile-an-hour wind. It was blowing sideways. It was crazy. I saw one picture they posted of their lodge.
Yeah, I saw that.
White out.
Yeah.
Like that morning, you couldn't even see the lodge. But as far as measurable snow, so I've lived here in Gonzales since 2003, and I think this is so in the last 22 years or whatever, 2 for sure, counting this one, and maybe we had another like an ice. I think we've only had 2 snows actually since I lived here, and we had an ice storm. Where we had like an inch of freezing sleet on the ground.
That's nuts, man. And normally y'all are, I mean, obviously you've got famous stories from Hurricane Katrina and, rescuing your family, like all that. I remember all that happening. So normally y'all are having to batten down the hatches more than the rest of the country on that kind of stuff. So it is weird to see y'all with whiteout.
I hope that we get on a pattern of snow, not on yes. We can do. No, we can handle that.
Amen. More snow, less spinny clouds, as they call them. Like way less of them, man. Well, dude, I was looking at some stuff this morning. I feel like I know so much about the guys that I've known for a long time and respect so much in the sport, and I'm a fan of, like yourself. And you're headed in. I guess this is your 20th year officially as a pro. Am I reading that right, or do you count back a little further?
I think you can go back a little farther than that. It's actually I can tell you this. In June of 2003, I was 100% fishing full time, like not doing anything else. But realistically, I think I started fishing I think I jackpotted an FLW tour event in 2000, I think.
Okay.
He ever starts to qualify for the FLW tour. And in 2001, I was full-time FLW tour pro. I mean, of course, I was fishing the opens, the ever starts. I fish a lot of stuff, but I was also working. I was still working for my father at that time in the logging business. And it was 2003, because I can remember him and I having this conversation in June of 2003. I told him I had to either start logging full-time, and basically I was fixing to start my own job. I was going to branch off and start my own job, or I was going to fish full-time. And we discussed it, and he was like, and fishing was going well for me in 2003. It had been for a couple of years. So
you won what? Ouachita Open around that time frame, isn't that right? Was that the summer you did that?
Yeah, that was 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been that. That was my, I think that's right. Yeah, because the 2002 was my first full season on the Opens, and because I won the points that year, and I won that tournament, and I qualified for my first classic in 2003. Okay. And we actually moved here, I think, a month before the classic was in New Orleans.
Okay.
We lived in Oak Ridge, Louisiana, and North Louisiana when Julie and I got married. And the reason we did that, she had just graduated from vet school and had a job in the Monroe area, and I could commute because my father had an IP contract at Bastrop, Louisiana, and I could commute and work for him when I was home from the tournaments. But I was fishing a lot, and like I was burning the candle at both ends, because when I would get home from a tournament, I'd go straight to the woods and go to work. So that was a good period of time. I enjoyed it.
No doubt. You and I've talked about this many times over the years, but I met you in a little tackle store that don't even exist anymore in Florence, Alabama. You were fishing the Everstart National Championship. It was November of probably, I'm going to say 2001 maybe, or 2002 on Pickwick.
On Pickwick.
And you came in, you called, because nobody ever came in this tackle store. And if the guy that used to run it caught on fire. I'm just going to say that. I'm not sure how it happened. But that's when I lost my job, allegedly caught on fire. So anyways, this old guy, he was moonlighting. He had another job. He would leave and go work another job. And he'd leave me to run the tackle store. Buddy, I would sit there all night, do my homework. I never see anybody. It wasn't the spot, right? Like it wasn't where all the guys were hanging out. And but I wanted to work in fishing, so that's where I was at. And so I'd go there after class, and you called. It popped up on the caller ID from a hotel there in like Sheffield, and you said, "Hey man, do y'all got any big salty chunks and black neon?" And I said, I went and knocked the dust. I said, hang on a second, put the phone down. I went over and knocked the dust off the Zoom wall, and I found something. And you came in there and you're like, how late y'all open? And you said you were fishing the Everstar. I said, man, I'll stay as long as you and you came in, it was you. And I had remembered reading about, in different magazines and stuff, seeing your name in standings. And we sat there. I'm probably 19 at that time, 20. But I remember that you were, and I'm like, this guy, and I think you were maybe sliding up in the coffee slough. We were talking about some of that. Yeah, we were talking about some of that. Yeah,
I forgot about that. It was a tough. The lake had a 15-inch length limit on it. And I think 3 a day, and actually finished 3 keepers a day and finished pretty good.
Yeah,
a couple tournaments there. I fished another one. I think I fished another tournament there the next spring, and I think about 12 pounds a day. I caught 10 pounds a day and ended up making I ended up, I don't know, 3rd or 4th in that one, and only caught like 10 pounds a day. And it's funny, Pickwick was tough. I remember that Everstart that next spring, Clark Willett caught I think it weighed 812.
Smallmouth.
Yeah, smallmouth.
Yes.
I remember seeing it. He was leading the first day with like 18 pounds and had an 8-pound smallmouth. And I remember seeing it in the bag thinking it looked like a yellow carp. Like so big. It was beautiful. It was.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
It was giant. And but fishing overall then at Pickwick was tough. Like it was, and then it seemed like right after that the hydrilla got in the lake and the lake just exploded, and then there were pound bags at Pickwick.
I remember that Everstart championship is when FLW used to zero on the last days and all that, and Joe Baylog, y'all could lock through to Wilson, and he won with 2 keepers the last day when they zeroed it.
Yeah,
I mean it was miserable back then, and I had several buddies in that one, and in the one in the spring. I remember, like 12 a day was stout, like it was really strong. Guys were running and cranking the ditch between Yellow Creek and Base, the waterway. They were winding flat side, like that was how you were doing good. I mean, it's so crazy to see how it evolved, like to that FLW win you had down there, and just lights out for so many years, and what they're kicking out now still. I mean, it's got a bunch of big ones in it.
That's what I had heard. I talked to Justin Atkins, I don't know, here a couple weeks ago, and I asked him, had they had any tournaments there? And he goes, yeah. And he said it was like taking like 30 pounds.
Every time. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. If you got like 28, you just don't even walk up there right now. It looks like I just keep my boat in the garage. Listen, they're all down there shaking that little manor. I'm like, all right. And I don't mind doing it, but I ain't never caught 30 doing it either.
I see, like yesterday, was the first day weigh-in of the Toyota at Rayburn, and it's kind of misleading there. It's giant weights at the top, and then all of a sudden it's like the bottom falls out of them after that. But I know that's how most of those fish are being caught too, is pinging a minnow. I mean here's the deal. Like used to. Think about this, like cranking flat sides and dragging little jigs around when it got cold, like letting a jerkbait set for 30 seconds before you jerked it. And like how fishing has evolved, because when you can target them, it doesn't get too cold. You know what I mean? When you're looking at that fish, you throw to it, it's totally different from fishing for one in cold water in the blind and trying to make him swim over there and eat your bug,
Yeah, me and Atkins actually talked about that this week, because I had a fella that kept up with the ABT on Gunnersville last week, and I did the live coverage, and they called them. There was like 18 bags over 20, and it took 28 to win. Gunnersville doing Gunnersville things, right? And this guy had been texting me. He said, "Hey man, I heard a lot of guys on stage say they were catching them on a jerkbait." And I said, "Oh yeah, in the grass they were jerking." He's like, "Well, how slow are they fishing at?" He said, "Man, I remember an article with Larry Nixon talking about he'd drink a cup of coffee in between jerks." I said, "Well, son, here's the deal. Anymore, we've learned them jokers will move a lot faster now that we can see them. They move a lot faster in cold water than we ever gave them credit for ever, and they feed a lot more, I feel like, than we ever thought they did."
They're swimming around out there eating all the time. is, who would have thought that catfish are swimming around out there in schools chasing shad like bass?
Yeah, come off the bottom, 10 foot off the bottom to run up and chase something. I never in my life.
Never had an idea of that. It'll be I know guys now who target catfish like that.
Yeah.
You know, crazy. They're like, I can go out there with a minnow and just fill the whole box, my whole live well full of catfish here pretty quick.
It's insane.
It is insane.
My granddaddy would roll over in his grave to know that we're running around and not, soaking chicken liver on the bottom or some night crawlers. That was one of his favorite things to do. And we're watching them jokers on a screen, Man, I figured that deal out, I guess 2 years ago, crappie fishing. I'd never caught one that I saw was that aggressive. I mean, I've caught them cranking and different things in the summer, like chasing a bait down. But man, fishing for crappie in a brush pile, all of a sudden this big blob comes running up there and gets your crappie jig, and you get it up there and it's a big blue cat. I'm like, what in the world? And then since then I've caught a bunch, pinging a minnow around, and it's amazing how aggressive they get. It's something, man. It's taught us a lot. Have you? Because man, obviously you wrote the book on so many things, shallow water, and you're a disciple of the Denny Browers of the world like I am, and so many of our forefathers, right? And power fishing. And that's how I grew up. Like you said, man, this time of year, me and my dad, we were going to be dragging a little old jig slow as we could, trying to get a bite when it got cold. But is there anything, because I've said a lot on the show and just talking with buddies, we have learned so much about bass behavior because now it's real-time data and we're seeing things and we're like, man, this is totally different than what we thought growing up. Is there anything that you've seen using it that's blown your mind? Because you've had it. You were one of the first people I ever talked to about live scope years and years ago. Is there anything that's that's just shook you to your core, like your principles, like, holy crap, I didn't think they did that?
Not really. And I'm going to tell you the reason for this. What we thought was right.
Okay.
But not thinking about what was going on in the abyss. All we're really learning different now from what we learned before is what was going on out there in open water.
Behind us.
Yeah. And then we, because there was nothing to target out there, no structure, those fish were swimming around anywhere from 50 foot to right on the surface in the middle. And probably the only thing actually, because somebody asked me I saw a deal the other day where a guy said everything we thought was all wrong. Well, that's not true.
I've said that before because sometimes I feel like that. I'm like, man, I don't know that we ever knew anything.
But here's the deal. Like, I'm like, for 25 years, I made a living going on what I thought was right. So here's the deal.
Hang on a second. Let me read something real quick, Greg. Yeah, over $3 million in earnings. Yeah, I'd say you knew what was right a lot of time.
And here's the deal with that. That type of fishing is not going away. Now we added this new deal to it, and I hate to say this, I don't really care what's going on out there. You know what I mean? And here's the other thought behind that deal. When you're scoping out there in the middle, pinging a minnow, jerkbait, whatever, you're learning how the fish act. You're learning to make better cast and presentation to that fish because you can see it. But are you really learning? Because here, and this is the only question I asked on that deal. I'm like, are you really learning that much? Because the deal is you're throwing at an animal you can see. Okay. You close your eyes, and then tell me where that fish out there in the middle is going next.
Or what he's doing.
You don't have
why he's there. Yeah.
You really don't. And when you catch 1 in 6 and 1 in 15 and 1 in 50, sometimes they're high in the water column. Sometimes they're
and
around out there and eat bait. Okay. So do stripers and catfish and everything else. I don't necessarily know that I'm learning that much.
Okay.
So to learn something about an animal's behavior is to be able to dictate where that animal is going next.
Predict. Yeah.
See him go there. Okay. That's learning about the animal. Okay. And I don't care if it's a deer, a squirrel, it could be a monkey. You understand what I'm saying? So the part that you learn, and I have learned over the last 25 years, when the wind blows this way, when the wind blows that way, it does move stuff around. So to target those fish that I've been targeting, you need to learn all that. To target the new fish, I need to learn my electronics. I need to learn distance, the rate of fall to the lure. I'm not really learning about the fish. I'm learning more about my equipment. I'm training myself to get better using my equipment, to using my active target, to, you know what I mean? To be able to look distance that fish is away, get that bait to drift right to that fish. As far as learning behavior about the fish, I'm not really learning that much.
So you think though, and obviously because it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? This is a question I've asked a lot of people. Do you think they were always out there doing that, or has fishing pressure pushed those fish out there maybe?
So I'll be honest with you about that. Think about this. Before the Navionics chip,
yeah,
all those schools of fish that were out there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Soon as we came out with the technology that showed everybody the juice hole and all those lineup points that guys had, and then the first time they looked at that map, they truly understood where they were fishing at.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that fish was getting there, all of a sudden those places aren't good anymore. Why is that?
Yeah. Amen.
But we learned much.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think a lot of that is that pressure, because if you pressure any animal, eventually you will make it do something that is not normal.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah. Big deer. You're a huge deer killer. You know. Yeah. You.
We know about scent. I mean, it's the whole deal now with the camera to put it out, that one that sends back pictures to your phone, so you make less of a footprint. Mm-hmm. Well, that same way too. He cannot reason, but if you burn him, you know, and it's things that make him uncomfortable, whether it's your boat or whatever, over time, I mean, there are certain places in the country already where they are showing the effect of it. You know what I mean? They're running.
Whatever. 1,000,000%. No, I've seen it. I've got a local lake I fish a lot by me that now that's all anybody does, and it's a lot of largemouth, and they suspend. And there are some days, I mean, I can watch it. Like, I fished this lake since I was 5 years old, and it's amazing. Like, especially if there's a bunch of boats running, and it's a small lake, but there's a bunch of boats out there running around. You can watch them act totally different. I mean, it is interesting to see. I mean, they'll hunker down tight to the bottom. I mean, you get 2 or 3, 4 boats running around, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, they'll go. Like, I'll get out there at daylight before a lot of people a lot, and you'll catch a few early, and then boats start running, and it's amazing to watch them. Because, again, it's like a small, you know them all by name almost. I mean, it's a fairly big lake, but it's not Pickwick, right? So that sample set, I've seen that. I've also seen it at Smith. Little Trey Swindle and I fished an ABT, I guess 2 falls ago, these massive schools of spots, and you would watch them. Like, you'd get on, 100 feet, you'd get on them, pew, gone. They'd split. I'm going, what are they hearing? What are they doing? You pull up on the next point, pew, there they go. I'm like, man, they're either hearing the boat or they're feeling something about that beam. It's got to be that.
Well, it's just like think about this. What about when everybody figured out you could drop on them with 2D sonar?
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden that way. Every time we advance in some way technology wise, it always seems like eventually. Now, I will tell you this. I do think that this deal is harder for the average fisherman. Okay. Now you see these tournament guys, they have jumped on it and they've learned, so here's the biggest thing with it. If you get it set up right, you can never have seen it before. But if you can know someone who can set it up the way it needs to be set up for you, it's pretty much self-explanatory. Now you got to figure out the species,
Yeah.
Of course, a little bit you can tell by how they move. The bass is faster. He moves around a lot more, but the average public, honestly, if they put one of them on their boat and they don't get it set right, they hate it right out the gate.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Back chunking at the bank or throwing on a ledge, or you know what I mean, and a patch of pads. So it has not evolved as quick as I thought. I first thought when everybody got on it. Biggest thing helped me back, I didn't know this was power. So when I first had it, if I'd have realized, like, I had a lot of battery issues. That was a big deal. You got to have enough power to make the thing run. Mine would go out every day about 9 or 10 o'clock because I only had one battery. Now I'm running 2. I got one battery that only runs my electronics, to keep everything crisp and clear. So there's just a little bit of learning curve on that deal. And I just think it's a little bit slower for the public. Some of it might be expense. I already got all this money invested in this, now I got to add another $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. But as it goes, because I first thought like everybody's using it, you know what I mean? But I just went to a bass university here a couple weeks ago, and everybody that was there, they were just there for normal fishing. You know what I mean? Like
that's cool.
everybody that got up and spoke, in our group, we just talked about different techniques of catching fish. It was not a deal on. Now I do know the next day, like Dakota Ebear came in and talked on Sunday. I had spoken on Saturday, and I know he was going to advance everybody. But so let me tell you this deal: flipping a jig is fun.
Yes, sir. Amen. Okay. Hey,
okay.
Right here, buddy. I love them.
You know what? It's not a deal that a lot of people do a lot.
I agree.
It's hard.
It's my dad always put it. It's like a master's class. If it like you got to know. Again, I can tell somebody all day long, "Hey, man, you need to get you this jig and go throw it." But and you know it better than anybody. You're one of the best that's ever thrown a jig. But there's a cadence. You can't just rip it out of the box and you're gonna go catch you 25 pounds. Like there's a certain deal on every different lake. You're talking line sizes, trailers, different times of year, color, head shot. I mean, there's so many that you can, and I know you could write a book on a master's class there, master's thesis on the jig.
Well, a glide bait. So the glide bait deal I've yet to catch one on it.
Really?
I love it. Okay.
So yeah.
I have tweaked my glide bait rod from last year.
Okay.
New rod, the new setup, the whole 9 yards. I do have the best glide baits, but I'm learning that deal. It's hard.
Yeah, it's tricky.
You watch guys do it. Like when I watch those guys twitch it on the top of the water and one eats it on the end of the pole, I'm like, that's the best thing ever. Yeah. But it's not easy. So not everybody's ever going to be doing that. Because a lot of guys are going to pick it up, do it a little bit. And they're like, "Its bait is huge and it's not user friendly." And but what I'm going by that is everybody will eventually have some type of scope. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether it's Target, whatever brand it is, like everybody will eventually. Lowrance came out with a $900 unit that does everything.
Mm-hmm.
One unit, you don't have a box, you can hook it up. Every crappie sac-a-lay fisherman on the planet will have it. You know what I mean? Like, so they've made it where it's affordable, for a lot of other people to have. So everybody will be doing it. So once everybody starts doing it, we'll see.
We'll see. Will we ever see Greg Hackney with a fuzzy dice?
Basically that's just a jig.
That's true. That is true. But listen, I cannot bring myself to throw a sugar cube with jig skirt material sticking out of it. I just can't. I ain't done it yet. I ain't saying I won't. I ain't bashful, but I just ain't done it yet.
I got so much stuff to use. I don't know that I'll get to it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's I hate to say this, but I have a lot of menace.
Yeah,
I have invested in the Mena deal too, but with that being said, that's one of the I will be honest with you about this year that's going to be a little bit different for me. Of course, Bassmaster, is going to allow us to use it.
Yep.
Throughout the year, we're down to 55 inches of screen. My boat's 8, so I'm going to put on the screen deal and one transducer, on the trolling motor. The only thing I do think they did that they did a good job of scheduling the events to make it 50-50. Does that make sense? Like in my mind, and it may just be I'm being naive, but looking at our schedule this year on Bassmaster, I believe a guy who fishes has a chance. You know what I mean? Like until we get to St. Clair, and then he won't have a chance. But then it'll be all front facing sonar. But before that period of time, a traditional fisherman I think will have a chance. And I think that's best for TV. You know what I mean? Because, what we do is entertaining. And so to keep that entertainment value up, it's like I watch a lot of UFC fights. I enjoy watching.
Me too.
And styles make fights. You know what I mean? You like to see a wrestler and a slugger. You know what I mean? Because every fight starts standing up. So there's a chance the wrestler gets knocked out. More times than not, he doesn't.
More times than not, he's got him.
He's like the slugger, we like to think he's got a chance. And so that I think that it would be, I tell you what, to me, if we can ever figure out, like at Bass, if they can get it where when they got 10 cameras out there, 5 guys fishing, 5 guys front facing sonar. I know it's all fishing. I get that. But but it would be cool to see, we've not really seen that yet. Typically, it has been more all one way or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so I think that would probably make, because what I think would make that cool is if we ever have an event where it's 50-50, is that, because you got this young group coming up, they don't want to do nothing but stare at that screen. I get it. I understand.
Yeah. And they feel like they got to, too.
Yeah,
I feel like, like Trey Swindle, one of my best little buds.
That other group out there that's more traditional, and so you'll have one side rooting for one guy and one side other, and everybody. But yeah, I think they did a better job on the scheduling, maybe. And I may be totally wrong. The whole year may be dominated by it. I don't know.
If they catch them on a minnow at the Sabine River, dadgummit, I'm turning it off.
Could happen. Somebody will find a wad out in a little ditch mouth or something.
That's true. It really is amazing to me how guys have adapted it to fishing chala and different things. Well, that being said, you've got the elite schedule, but a list came out a couple of weeks ago, and there'd been rumor. I'd heard some whispers from the NPFL folks, and all of a sudden this guy named Greg Hackney is on the list. So you're going to get a break from it for 6 weeks. And what are you thinking about it, man? What did you think about the schedule? And welcome, first of all.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I almost fished it once before, and hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have. That was a mistake on my part. And but a couple reasons. I think I need to fish more. We don't really fish very much. You know what I mean? We have a lot of big breaks and gaps, and I think being on the water more has helped me historically has helped me. So I'm hoping that, will help my performance some. And I'll be really honest with you. The biggest reason, like when the NPFL stood up and said, you know what, we're just going to ban it. They just banned it. They're going to go traditional at every event. I have to have a lot of respect for that. I don't know where the sport's going, to be honest with you. I'm at a crossroads. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say this. I don't want to see it go all the other way. Last years. And maybe I'm biased because I've been around a long time and I've had a lot of success just fishing. So I just it was a kind of a deal too. I'm like, you know what? Maybe shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. Let's spread the eggs around. You know what I mean? And but again, I have a lot of respect for the decision they made that they banned it. They're standing alone. You know what I mean?
That's right.
By themselves. And I think a lot of the world took notice of that. And if we're going to draw a line in the sand, you know what I mean?
Let's go. Yeah.
Right side of the line.
Yeah. Let's go. Well, and when you've put your eggs in another basket before, looking back at your career, those years are always pretty daggum good for you. I mean, you want a Forest Wood Cup, you want FLW Angler of the Year, you want an FLW Tour event while you're fishing everything at the same time. So I'm feeling like this year's going to be fireworks for you, dude. Because it seems like that's when you're at prime.
I haven't done that since 2014, which is a long time ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Been a lot of water went under the bridge since 2014, but that was the last year because there's always been conflicts. Has been the biggest reason I haven't done that. And I don't know. I'm just looking forward to it. The NPFL is a great schedule. And I don't know, in my heart, I don't know which tournament trail I will benefit the most from by doing it. It will either be that Bassmaster will help me at the NPFL or NPFL will help me at Bassmaster. I don't know. Because like in 14, I did well on the FLW tournament trail, but I did great on the Bassmaster tournament trail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I won events on both trails, but I won the Angler of the Year at Bass. And so because I did notice a couple, I remember this, I fished 6 weeks straight, the first deal, six events. And the sixth one was at Beaver Lake, was FLW at Beaver Lake. And by day 2 of it, I was done. Like,
okay.
I caught a limit the first day. The second day, I just stayed in one place and forced it. I quit even thinking bass fishing. You know what I mean? I was thinking about going home.
I get it.
There's no really stint between Bassmaster and the NPFL this year where I'll fish quite that much.
Yeah.
of them I fished 3 weeks in a row. And at 51, I'm probably best it's only 3 weeks with a week off. I'll actually be gone 4 weeks. I'm gonna go a week early to Florida, and we fish back-to-back Bassmaster events, and then I'll roll to Santee Cooper. But the other thing is, I'm like, when I look at the events in a row, man, the places we're going. I mean, think about this. I'm leaving Florida, going to Santee Cooper to the end. I mean,
yeah,
you don't even need coffee. That'll get you up in the morning.
ain't no doubt. Yeah, Santee first week of March. I mean, how many bass guys have circled that over the years? Like, if it lines up, that's just one of those weeks, man. We've seen that historically. If you get the right weather and the right deal, it can be lights out. Yeah, just lights out.
And I will be honest with you, I'm really looking forward to know. I'll tell you one of the biggest reasons. It kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier. For me, when I'm not using the forward-facing sonar, I think more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I find that I use my mind more. I anticipate things, like you get a bite, you start looking at where you get the next bite, and I don't ever want to lose that. And it's like I said, it's not that the other deal it is fishing, but it's in a totally different manner. And I just find when I'm staring at that screen all day, I don't think much. What you have to do is you have to pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot ever lose focus, so your mind can never wander. It has to be focused on the screen in case when you're panning, you see one, whatever. And traditional fishing is a different mindset. I start looking at the weather. I'm already studying the weather now at Palatka, Okeechobee. I've even looked to see what this weather did at Santee Cooper. That's what you don't do that. It doesn't matter. You can look at Pickwick weights. You can look at what went on at Rayburn. You can look on what went on today at Clark's Hill in the open. The weather doesn't matter
No.
It does matter the other style of bass fishing.
I
started studying the weather, and to like for area, like, well, if they're spawning, this will be the area, but if it's cold, this will be the area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For fishing. And there's even a part of me that the other day, there's a group, we're wait about talking about this, but a deal that's going to go on with the NPFL tournament this year, that there's a part of me, since in it they've completely banned it. I thought about not putting it on my boat for even getting through until I go to St. Clair for the Bassmaster. Is just fish the whole.
That. Yeah, just go.
And the reason for that is, and that way I never have to think about it. I never have to worry about it. I spend all my practice without it. I spend all my time fishing without it. And there's a part of me that I'm not 100% that I'm going to do that. I'm about 75% that. Now it's not like that on the NPFL, I'm not utilizing my electronics. I'll be using my 2D, my down, my side, my mapping, everything that, my Lowrance units offer. I'm going to be using that. I'm just not going to be spotlighting out in front of me.
Yeah.
Be the only thing. There's a part of me that's wanting to do that. Now, like I said, I'm about 75% now that it's on my boat now. I've not turned it on since I've had it, but I'm thinking about just pulling that transducer completely off and sticking it in the box. But I'll know this when I go to St. Clair for the elite. If I don't use it, I'll have no chance of competing. Maybe not even can draw a check.
Of course. Yeah.
I know how that open water smallmouth fishing. You can't fish without it. But before that period of time, I'm like, just to make so I never think about anything else. There's definitely a part of me that's wanting to take it off.
I remember Swindle saying, when it comes to consistency, he had a year where he was mad about equipment or something. And I forget the story, but it was one of his best years he ever had on the elites. And he said, I fished with a 7-foot medium heavy everywhere we went. No matter what. He said, I had 10 of them on the deck, and that's what I did. And I didn't have to think about anything, but it was something like that. He goes, man, that's just what I did. He said, I was frustrated. So I could see where, and this would be a lot bigger deal, obviously, because forward facing is dominant. But I think for you, I could see where, man, you just cut your teeth, this incredible career, again, not looking at it and observing and watching what's going on and weather patterns, wind, lake conditions, and just going. I could see where you'd have a pretty damn good year doing that.
Well, I will tell you this, like I look at last year, it's not the worst year I've ever had fishing. I think I've had one year that was worse than that, but mentally last year was the worst year I've ever had. To me, making the classic last year was the toughest on me mentally that it's ever been. It was the hardest year I've ever had. And a lot of that was self-inflicted because of the technology. I fought demons of when I used it, when I didn't use it. I used it in one event I wish I hadn't. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'll tell you this. Here's the other thing you miss. You miss seeing a giant turtle. This is going to sound weird, but when you're staring at that screen, you don't see a giant turtle pop up out there from you. Yeah. You don't see an alligator swim by. You don't see birds. You know what I mean? Like, and part of the deal of being outside and doing all that is observing all this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Is connected, at a spiritual level with outside. It's one of the reasons I love my job. I love being outside all the time. I love being basically attached to nature. And I just, it just seems like when that deal's going on, I'm not attached to it. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
I'm attached to it in the same way. I even see guys wear headphones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? While they're doing it. And I'm like, I couldn't hear one blow up.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Never.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
I can't be disconnected from everything that's going on. And I'm like, and I'm not fighting a trend, because I'll be the first one to tell you, I think there's a chance that that's the way our sport goes. I had a conversation with Van Dam back, we had dinner together right before the Hall of Fame dinner. And he was like, we will know after this year, kind of where we're going, with all this. And here's the deal about some people like, oh, I think the states will ban it because it's impacting fisheries. Let me tell you about most of our fisheries are basically high fence. Okay.
Yeah.
They're places, they're most of the places that we fish tournaments are regulated by the state, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. So if we catch all the fish out because we're using front facing sonar, they will just pull a truck up and fill them back up. It's like shooting deer in a pen. You know what I mean? Like you kill them all out, they just bring some more and turn them loose, raise some more. Well, bass are the same way. And most of the lakes we fish are reservoirs. You know what I mean? They're never regulated by the state. So I'm like, I don't think the states would do that. Now, maybe up north, on the smallmouth and the Great Lakes and that kind of deal. But again, bass won't ever really be as far as, most people who catch bass, they turn them back anyway. You know what I mean? They turn everyone sacrilegious to keep a bass, for some reason, but they turn them back. So I'm like, I'm not really worried about it impacting the fisheries. My deal is I'm like, I just don't know how I feel about it as a professional. I'm still on the fence. And again, I have to look at this. I'm biased. But, I've been around a long time.
Yeah. 20 plus years, son.
Plus years. I've been doing something one way. And then all of a sudden you're going to get up one morning and tell me, well, you're going to do it this way. I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, can I still flip 25 on them?
Like, the other deal, man, I like to swim a jig and frog and throw a square.
That's me.
Crank and fill them lock up on. I like people don't even know this. I love cranking a big plug.
Oh yeah.
I loved it when you rock up on a school of them. When that big plug locks up, you just get ready because I'm finna put on a show and get one every cast.
Oh yeah.
That's the stuff I don't want to go away. It's not because it's like I love to sight fish, but I don't want to sight fish every tournament.
No.
Kind of where I'm at with all of it. I want to be able to do everything. I like having 20 rods and 20 different techniques and getting able to use all that stuff. It's just fun, So.
Oh, it is. I don't think it's interesting. I've said this before too, with live scope, forward facing sonar. The only other argument I've ever seen in professional bass fishing tournaments through fans, and this was way before social media, was the sight fishing argument. It's that's the only other thing that I felt like has ever really divided a fan base. You got people that think, and you had certain pros that would say, oh, it's terrible, you can't do this. And you'd have fans that didn't like it. Listen, I want to ride up and look at every one of them jokers and cross their eyes. I I have almost been fired. I've almost been divorced. I almost got kicked out of school because when they're on the bed, your boy is going to go as much as he can. I love that. I love sight fishing.
Visual aspect of watching that fish swim around and and do that deal.
Yeah,
but you don't want to fish every turn. You don't want to sight fish 20 tournaments out of it.
It'd be like having Christmas every day. You get tired of it eventually.
You get tired of it. So that's the other thing. Like in my personality, I don't even want to flip every tournament. And I want to flip 5 of them. I would say that, but you know what I mean? I want to do some frogging and swimming a jig, and I want to do that other stuff, drag a big worm around. I enjoy everything, and that's the way that's probably the thing that I probably dislike about it the most. I don't want to jerk bait and ping them in every tournament.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I want to spinner bait and just do some different stuff. And but I get it. It is so powerful, and I can see how the new generation's like, man, this is and they're just getting better and better at it. Like I read those boys' names at that Toyota at Rayburn, from yesterday, and I'm like, they all look alike. All their hair is
It's so true. It's so true, though. It's so true.
Last names, I'm like, did they all come out of the same family? I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is, but they all look alike.
Well, like I do, we were talking about this at the ABT at Gunnersville last weekend. Over there, you have Marshall Deakins. He just beat your brains out on that rattle trap, son. You show up in January, February, get ready. He finna lay it on you. You weren't going to beat him. He was the best trap fisherman. And now Alex Davis is his nephew. Alex is the man over there with that trap. And now you see the names in the standings and you go, hang on a second. What's going on? And all these OG just Gunnersville, the guys that I used to want to be able to get in a boat with to see how they were doing it, they ain't up there. And it's like you said, Rayburn, the Dickie Newberries and, all these legends in the January, man, they're going to be trapping. Oh, we're going to throw that red trap, but they're going to throw it better than you. And now it is interesting. The last 3 or 4 years, these names are just so different in the standings.
It's, I tell you what it's done. It is such an equalizer because now these boys can honestly, you may be fixing to get beat by the person that's his first trip to Gunnersville.
Yeah.
Don't really think about, because again, there's nothing holding you back in that open water either. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're not getting around stuff. You can break an air. It's like as fast as your trolling motor will run. That's how fast you can break the area down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say that now that's on the elites because we only can have it on the front. But last year, we had guys running 2 on the back, and they can just idle, and there they are. It's so it's so much faster than you pulling up on a grass bed and going down the edge of it looking for a hard spot.
Yeah,
it's a needle in a haystack deal. So the learning curve is so much faster because they're like, it's Gunnersville, it's good. I just go in this main creek. I looked on the map and it's got a big creek channel in it. I just go out there and get in it, and there they are.
Yep.
And they can fish for singles or they can fish for groups. Doesn't matter. It can just be isolated big ones laying down the ditch, out in the middle. It's just, I don't know. It's like you said, it's those guys that have won everything, that learned all that stuff. It's not that stuff is useless anymore. It's just, a guy has never been there. I promise you, a lot of those guys and I looked at their names they're new guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they've come on the last couple of years because of it. Like they don't know anything about grass or any of that. It don't matter.
They don't want to get in a flipping battle with you in the hydrilla like that. The scrapes. Like the scrape fishing that y'all have done. You and Zona film shows on it. And that thing has always been one of those just mysteries in life to me, honestly, where you sit there on one hole in the grass and wreck them.
Last year, case in point, you say that, I flipped grass at Champlain.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know one morning in practice, I went out on the high spot, dropped the trolling mode, dropped my active target 2 out there, shined out there, and there was one sitting out there. I fired out there as a 4-pound smallmouth. I turned it off and went back to the grass. I already knew from the year before, I'm like, if I fish, I got miles of water to fish. For some reason at Champlain, which is crazy, all of a sudden, if you're the good areas to to use your front facing sonar in, all the boats are wadded up and there's miles and miles of fishing. There's not a soul. So I said, you know what, I'm going to flip grass. So I was in a bind to make the classic, but I'm like, 20 pounds is 20 pounds. Catch them 20 pounds is 20 pounds. So
yeah,
I was like, I may have to, but I'm going to flip grass. So I flipped grass during the deal. And I was in the weigh-in line. I think the first day I only caught 19 pounds, or right at 19. The second day I caught 20 and change. And so I'm in the weigh-in line, and I don't call his name, but it's one of our up-and-comers. He's a heck of a fisherman. I mean, he's already he was a college fisherman. He was an open fisherman. Now he's an elite fisherman, young guy. Anyway, he said something to me in the weigh-in line. I said, yeah, I caught him flipping grass. I'll tell you, because I know, and he goes, and he asked me this question. And let me just tell you this, what they were on in the grass stuck out like a sore thumb. Like once I found it, I just idled and looked for it. You know what I mean?
Light bulb, yeah.
It was, they were everywhere. Whatever. I'm not going to tell you what it was.
I know that. Once
I found it, I was like, well, I mean, this ain't nothing. This is even easier than it normally would be there flipping grass. It was that, and he goes, he goes, I flip grass and I never got a bite. And he goes, do you just go and go to get a bite? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, really? And I'm like, it stood out like a sore thumb. A monkey could have figured it out. So I'm like, that's the only thing that worries me about doing the other way, is because you lose all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. 6 in one hand, dozen another. This year will be the tell-all.
It will. With what BPT did, they got that hybridized deal, NPFL Bandit. And like Van Dam said, this will be the year we get to see, what are the fans like? What are the fishermen like? What do they want? Let's see. And bass, they cut down the screens, but it's going to be out there, guys, still using it. Two things I want to ask you, because those early 2000s, like you said, when you came up, and this, again, this is a hot topic on here all the time. I talk about it because it kind of makes me sad, but I do feel like we've lived the golden era when it comes to payouts and things. What do you think we need to do as a sport to get back to that? How do we get back to that?
So we have to do something. So here's the deal. Our sponsors and the people who support our industry, like you have Express on your deal.
Yeah.
Like we have just about sucked them dry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have to do something, because when the money was so big, like I'll be honest with you, from 2002 to 2007, even like from 2000, I guess, to 2007, the money was so much better than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, I make less money now than I ever have, and the cost is more expensive than it's ever been. But what we lost was those non-endemic sponsors. When the Elite Series started, Bass had the Dirty Dozen that drove around the sponsors. Yeah. And, guys complained about having to get out of their boat when they made the top 10 and get in that boat. But, man, we lost a lot of money when those boats went away, because there were a lot of non-endemics. FLW had Walmart, and Walmart was leveraging a lot of people who did a lot of business at Walmart, to put money into the sport. And that's why it was so big. And again, I don't, our sponsors are doing the best they can do right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Our sport. Here's the other funny thing about this. And I don't understand this, because I'm just a dumb bass fisherman. You know what I mean? Our sport is bigger now than it's ever been before.
Yep.
Why we are not drawing in those? We're a discount. We're a good deal for a non-endemic that's used to sponsoring, football or baseball or, these other sports, tennis, soccer, whatever. I mean, bass fishermen, or the bass fishing industry, can be bought for pennies on the dollar.
Yes, sir.
Compared to that other stuff. I don't know. It really, General Tire left MLF here last year, the year before.
Yeah.
I really hated to see that, because, we've got a handful of non-endemics left now. Toyota's such a huge supporter.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they truly like what they do, and you know what, we need a truck to pull boats with, and it's a perfect fit for them. But I hated to see General Tire leave because I'm like, that's not good.
No.
We need, because we don't need to be putting all that pressure on the Phoenixes and the Mercuries and the Express and
Strike King. Yeah.
Yeah, the Strike Kings and Lou's, and you know what I mean? Like, they're doing all they can do, you know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I know the answer is we got to draw, you know, more companies into our, into our sport, but I don't know what it's going to take
Yeah. How do you get there? And
to get them there.
I don't know either. I wish I was smart enough to know that answer. I'd start a petition to get it going. I don't know. Those heydays were just so much fun to watch. The fact that you're getting to fish for nearly $1 million in a Forest Wood Cup and $500,000 in a Classic, and those kind of things it just made it that much more exciting for a fan. And God knows for the angler in it, that pressure and the chance to change your life, man.
I'm here to do whatever we need to do. Whatever to do, and I think we have to do it as a group, and I think it's the anglers. The anglers need to make this a place that we don't need any controversy. We don't need any drama. You know what? We're all getting to fish for a living. We need to be happy about it, regardless if whatever that type of fishing may be. We need to be happy about it, and we need to come over that way, and we need to be attractive. We need, because we have a huge fan base, and we have so many sportsmen out there that are, even if they're not tournament fishermen, that do love bass fishing and, all kinds of fishing and hunt. We need to come together, and help our, and if nothing else, more so just to make sure that this continues on, for our children and their children.
Amen.
We enjoy the great outdoors, so, so whatever we need to do that, I'm all for.
Yeah, let's get on the train.
Let's get on
the train. Last question, and this is a lighthearted one, a goofy one. But I did not know this about you. And like I said, I met you many, many years ago. Been around you a lot over the years. One of my favorite folks in this industry. But I did not know you were a Star Wars guy. I did not know this. I read this on Bassmaster. So I have a question to end on. If you were a Star Wars character, if Zona was a Star Wars character and Ronnie Moore was a Star Wars character, who would each of you be? I need the Greg Hackney. I need you to pick who would be who.
Zona has a little bit of Darth Vader. Like, he can swing both sides. Does that, like?
Oh yeah.
I guess he could probably be Anakin Skywalker because he started one way and leaned the other way. So the deal is, I like the Ronnie Moore one is the easiest one.
Okay.
And I can't think of he played in the movies with Anakin Skywalker and had the long ears.
Jar Jar?
That's him. Jar Jar Binks.
Little skinny turd. Jar Jar Binks.
Kind of seemed like he could swing both ways. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah, that definitely be a.
That's little Ron.
In the old days of Star Wars, he could probably be 3CPO in the originals ones, but as it's changed, he's more of a Jar Jar Binks.
He's a Jar Jar. Okay.
Yeah. But right. Zona, actually, out of all the Star Wars movies, Han Solo's always been my favorite.
So that's you.
Luke Skywalker, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He's been a Han Solo fan.
And you have a son named Luke. Is that where it came from?
No, that's not. It had more of a biblical name.
Okay, well, that was my mom, and she got asked that my entire life. Oh, was it because of Star Wars? Because it was around the same time frame I was born. She's like, no, it was the Bible.
It was the Bible.
It was the Bible, not George Lucas.
But he could swing. I'm like, he could be part of it. But my wife, I would never tell her that.
My mom was adamant about it, son. My dad might have had a vote in that, but I don't think so. It was all Teresa Duncan on that.
Yeah, here on out, Ronnie Moore's Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar. I'm going to change his contact in my phone to Jar Jar with the picture right now when we get off this.
Perfect. Yeah,
Greg Hackney, you're the man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, man. And
thank you.
I can't wait. I'll see you. We're about little over a month out. I'll see you over there at Santee. Me and the big cat are going to be broadcasting from the event. So we're going to be over there aggravating the hell out of everybody. So just get ready. And hey, I know them Hackney looks. So if I come up, I'll be able to read it. All right, we're just going to keep on walking. Most intimidating man in bass fishing, Clint Eastwood.
Well,
I appreciate you, dude.
Talk to you later.
Thanks, Greg. Well, that's all she wrote with the one and only Hack Attack, Greg Hackney. So grateful that he took time out of his day to join me. Like I said, he's one of those Mount Rushmore bass fishing types for me, to say the very least. And so, 8 years into doing this show, going on 8 years, it's still amazing that I get to chew the fat with that guy, because Lord have mercy, he's an animal. It's going to be really cool having him on the NPFL this year and getting to cover him, getting to hang out a little bit at those events, and strip that 4-person sonar away, which I know Greg, obviously he's embraced it, but man, it's going to be a really fun season. So thanks to Greg, thanks to all you lowlifers for tuning in like you always do. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are working on the details. We're getting very close to finalizing the Bassmaster Classic Low Budget live. And man, I'm getting more excited by the minute as we kind of get these details shaken out and things start to take shape. So if you're going to be there, let me know, because we want to throw down with you in Dallas. Or in Fort Worth. The last time we were there, it was incredible. We're going to try to do a little bit bigger venue this time, a little bit bigger venue than we did last year in Tulsa, because people were popping out the sides of that sucker, and that is amazing to me. So going to try to do the same thing again this year. Going to take you out with some Biloxi Blues, a song you will hear out there in Texas. No doubt about it. All right. See you all later. My mic cut off. See ya. It helps if I hit the button. It's low budget. See ya.
Damn these Biloxi Blues, it happens every night. And I ain't never met a riverboat dealer that could ever be a friend of mine. The summer heat never treats me kind, it leaves trouble on my mind. So I'm bidding farewell, putting in my notice, and I'll see you at another time. This highway does not know